The Irish fought off us Brits for about 800 years to the cry of Ireland for the Irish. Yeah, then they got that freedom and decided to give it away in about 80 years. Now, if an Irishman screams Ireland for the Irish, since Ireland has become a globalised and progressive state, you are, of course, a bigot. It seems to me, then, that the Irish have been hoodwinked in recent decades. They've been told by the powers that be that everything is the fault of the British and history, and it's the British that are evil and hate migrants. Henceforth, you should constantly welcome mass migration, no matter how many people end up in Ireland. So it seems then that while the Irish have had their heads turned by an unrelenting anti-British sentiment, their own lands have started to be overrun by people from every corner of the world. And of course, they're also learning that this doesn't mean you hate these people. It means that when you start to question why so many people are here and that the government will just shout at you and shut you down if you say anything, that this is forced upon you. This isn't about being left-wing or right-wing. It's simply about democratic will of the people, which is constantly ignored like it is in all European nations. I think the Irish got away with their nationalism for a while because it was left-wing, just as Sinn Féin is left-wing. But because they're left-wing, now they've adopted an open borders policy, and the Irish people have started to figure that out, which is why recently they were yelling that Sinn Féin are traitors. Yet as we know, the modern powers that be that control Western nations don't care what the people in such nations think. They actively dislike the people in the nations. And this is why Ireland has developed exactly the same structure as the rest of the Western nations. You have the middle class apologists, such as this guy. Paddy Cosgrove is some sort of tech entrepreneur, and he states in a conversation that definitely happened with his granny, me explaining New Age Irish patriots, quote unquote, to my granny. Me, they are 26 county ethno-nationalists. Granny, so working with British intelligence then to undermine Sinn Féin and unification. Bingo! Spoken like a true pet dog of the globalists, this fella wants to bring things back simply to anti-British sentiment so the Irish people turn their heads and ignore what's going on in their own country. Of course, this guy is privately educated and spends his time jetting around major European capitals. He, like most progressives, are insulated from the very things they lecture you about. Yet snooty internationalists are the least of Ireland's problems. Even the Irish Times is trying to guilt-trip its own people by stating that Ireland has yet to come to terms with its imperial past. Ireland, which was dominated by Britain for 800 years, which was part of Britain's colonial network, too apparently now must face up to its imperial past. Now, I think most of you know what's going on here behind the scenes. This ideology is stemming from the woke, cancel culture, identity politics stuff coming out of the universities. In their eyes, the Irish people and the Irish identity is irrelevant because the Irish are white, and white, of course, is an oppressive class. And this is what allows grifters like this guy to try and get nomination for the European elections. Sheikh Dr. Umar Al-Qadiri has got this to say to the Irish people. We must prevent racists and bigots from hijacking the tricolour. And who are these racists and bigots? Well, of course, they're just anyone who has a problem with mass immigration. And hijacking the tricolour? It's theirs in the first place. Who are they hijacking it from? Themselves. As I've been exploring in recent videos, this is part of a new tactic amongst the progressive. They want to make the minorities themselves seem as if it's their land, and anyone who is patriotic and has a problem with mass immigration isn't welcome in their own country anymore. He goes on to mention how the patron saint and apostle of Ireland, St. Patrick, was an immigrant himself and ultimately became the symbol of Irishness. Well, he wasn't an immigrant, he was a slave brought over from England. And for some reason, according to Dr. Umar, that now means that the Irish can't celebrate St. Patrick's Day either. And then he ends with his guilt-ridden emotional manipulation. Say no to racism, bigotry and hatred by voting for him at the upcoming European elections. Of course, if you don't vote for me, you're a racist, you're a bigot and you're full of hatred. This is just the politics of propaganda. People like Dr. Umar hate the Irish people. They hate any indigenous people who don't go along with the globalist agenda. These people, the vast majority of them, don't hate anybody for immutable characteristics. They're just tired of being pushed around, not listened to, and have policies enforced on them from the top. It's worth keeping an eye on Ireland to see what happens in the future. These are just my thoughts, however, do let me know what you think down below and do consider subscribing to the channel.